welcome. I would like to welcome you to episode 518 of the Unpopular Podcast. This is the man, the myth, the legend, Jalen Hunter. Here at the Unpopular Podcast, now we ask you to agree with me. I'm asking you to hear me out. When you look at this Christian Wilkins situation, there's a lot of life lessons that can be learned in this situation. This situation carries a bunch of life lessons. Let's talk about it. Christian Wilkins, who just got a massive contract from the Vegas Raiders, over $100 million, just a year later gets released. And you hear things about something that happened with the teammates. You hear things about the way his rehab is going and how he's approaching his rehab. There is a lot that we heard coming out of this release. And it made you think like, hey, well, I don't know what's going on. You just paid this man, I think, upwards of $110 million. A year later, I think about 4 or 5 games later, because he didn't even play the whole first season of his contract, he gets released. The first lesson that is wrapped up in this situation is sometimes it is incredibly difficult to change your perception. I've talked about this before, but it is difficult to change your perception, especially when you continue to do things to fuel whatever perception that you have. A perfect example of this is Dwight Howard. Dwight Howard was an incredible player. Obviously a Hall of Fame player. And honestly, if you really look at his game, especially in Orlando, Dwight Howard was one of the best, most athletic centers we have ever seen. Dwight Howard's name does not get talked about a lot. One, because he didn't really accomplish anything as far as winning a championship, even though he was one of the best defensive players we've ever seen at the center position. But he didn't really accomplish anything until late in his career as far as team championship-wise, even though he did lead a team to an NBA championship. They lost, but you know. But there's a reason why we don't talk about Dwight Howard as much in that highlight, as much as his talent warrants. It's because of perception. It's because of, the way that he approached the game, his, I guess you could say, happy-go-lucky approach, his always joke or seemingly always joking and rubbing teammates like a Kobe Bryant, like a James Harden the wrong way. His perception was, as uber talented as he is, he doesn't necessarily take the game seriously because of just how much it appears that he jokes around. Forget the fact that he's a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. Forget the fact that he is on the All-Decade team. Forget the fact that he is one of the best, most athletic centers we've had. His perception, and anytime we talk about Dwight Howard, usually is about, his personality and things that happen or allegedly happen off the court. Your perception, if you're not doing really anything to change it, your perception will always follow you. When we go back to this situation, Christian Wilkins has had a perception since he was at Clemson. He's a really good defensive player, really physical, fast, athletic, but when you see videos of him, after they win a national championship and he does a split and then dances while he does a split, or you see him on Hard Knocks, or you see him and you hear sound bites of him, maybe in a serious play, he might be joking around or he might have a joke here and there. And then you hear reports, again, these are just reports, so I don't know if it's true or not, but reports that one of the biggest reasons why he got released from the Raiders is because he either jokingly or tried to kiss a teammate on the forehead. some people don't play the way that other people's play. Let's first get that out the way. Some people do not play the same way that you play. And while that could be lighthearted to you, somebody else can take it the wrong way. And one thing that I'm learning personally is, at the end of the day, your intentions necessarily don't matter if it came off the wrong way. And I don't know how I'd feel. I'd be pretty upset. There'd be some strong words. Excuse me. There'd be some strong words that I'd have for my teammate if my teammate tried to kiss me or kiss me on the forehead at the team facility. That's kind of crazy. It's about perception. And don't get me wrong. If that was the first time that happened, which it could have been, then it may have been forgiven if he didn't have, all the failed stops and the stuff that happened at Clemson. Again, nothing terrible, but when you're not looked at as a serious player, this is what you're going to get. Another life lesson in this situation is you have to understand I'll give you an example. At my job, there was this guy I knew, and he was cool. He wasn't the most assertive, attentive worker, but he was a worker. He had the job, He came in, did what he had to do. And one day, we find out he gets fired. And it seemed like he got fired for the littlest thing. Like it was something so minuscule. And that is when I learned, because again, there's a difference when we talk about corporations, when we talk about corporate jobs. A job is always trying to wait for that icing on the cake. If you're one of those employees, they're waiting for that icing on the cake. They're waiting for you to mess up. They're waiting for you to give them probable cause because they probably have been building up a portfolio of why you should be fired, but you're probably not because you're doing just enough. But once you do that one thing, it's curtains, and that's what happened to my man's. It didn't work out too well for Christian Wilkins in Miami. The Raiders signed you to a contract that many people feel was a egregious overpay for a player like Christian Wilkins. The first year of that contract, you don't even play half of the season. And then, all reports, you're going against essentially what the team is telling you to do when it comes to rehab, when it comes to what you should do. Reports are saying that his rehab wasn't going as fast as it wanted to, so they were thinking about doing surgery, which in his foot, he had I think a Liz Frank injury or one of those things. They needed to do surgery, and he was like, he didn't want to do surgery, which I get. If you don't have to do surgery, I wouldn't want to do surgery. But the team, again, and it's all about all the things. It's like, hold on. If we do get surgery, there is a clear timetable of when you'll be available. If we don't get surgery, there is no timetable of when you'll be available. Plus, there's videos of you dancing in the facility with your foot still injured. It's just, all of this is just bad. This whole thing is a cluster of bad PR for Christian Wilkins. And the icing on the cake is when you tell the organization, yo, I'm not trying to get surgery. I'm not saying it's wrong to get a second opinion. In fact, I think you should always get a second, third, fourth opinion outside of the team, because the team is always, the team doctors and everything is always going to do what's best for the team, not necessarily for you. But you have to understand your perception. You have to understand how you're perceived, how you're looked at. They just paid you all this money. You didn't even play half the season. You're going back and forth, and now you have situations with teammates. It's like the perfect storm to get released. I'm not saying that this is the end for Christian Wilkins, I'm sorry. But what I'm saying is this. This was an opportunity to change the perception, change how people saw you, change the narrative around Christian Wilkins, because it hasn't been. It's been he's good, but he's decent, but this was an opportunity for you to do that, and instead of nipping that in the butt, you essentially fuel it with trying to kiss a teammate on the forehead in the facility. And there was issues about your foot rehab after you got paid. It's not a good look, bro. Now, again, I don't think that this is enough for his career to be over. I don't think it should be. But at some point, these lessons are going to have to stop. Like, you're going to have to, at some point, this can't continue to happen. And unfortunately, it seems like there was a lot of there was not behavioral issues in the sense of he was just a bad person, but there were behavioral issues in Miami, saying that it just didn't seem like he took the moment as serious as he should. And that was some things that you heard, and that's kind of why his draft stock wasn't as high as it was going into the draft, even though he was coming off a national championship for Clemson for this same type of situation. When you've had, and I'm not just saying it's a perception and it's not true, because obviously there is some truth in all of this since it keeps happening. But at some point, if it affects the way that you're viewed in the draft, if it affects the way that your contracts roll out, and the team that drafted you doesn't really want you anymore, and it now affects the team that you went to, it's like, at some point, at some point, I wish nothing but the best for him. Again, I don't think his career is over. It's just, what are we doing, But we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, just when I was building this out and hearing kissing a teammate on the forehead, it's crazy, bro. I don't know. I think what's funny is I try to put myself in some of these situations. I try to put myself in both Christian Wilkins and the teammate. Like, in what moment, right? In what moment do I look over to my teammate and say, this is a perfect situation for me to go kiss that man on his forehead? And for the life, I've played basketball. Now, obviously, basketball and football are two different things. I've played basketball on a team level since I was 5 years old. I played football 1 year. Knew it wasn't for me when we had to do full field bear crawls and it was like 95 degrees out. I knew football wasn't for me when we had to do, I don't remember that drill where, I don't remember what it's called, where you were all in a circle, and then they'll call like two people's number and you just got to go hit each other. I knew it wasn't for me, you know? I know I'm a big dude. I know I'm tall-ish. I knew football wasn't for me when we had to do them full field bear crawls, and we had to do I think it's called the Oklahoma drill when you had to like just hit each other. I knew it wasn't for me. So I played 1 year, and it was that's another thing. Football, I don't know how it is now, and I don't know how if it's different in different states. But I'm from Maryland, and they did it by weight. So you're doing 75 pound, 85 pound, 95 pound, and I was a big kid, you know. So I was in middle school playing in 95 pounds. It's like 95 pounds and up. And I was playing against 9th, 10th, 11th graders. For people that don't know, 9th, 10th, and 11th grade is high school. So I'm a middle schooler getting, and that's another thing, man. I know I'm on a tangent. I apologize. But I wanted to play I wanted to play tight end. I knew I was not fast enough to play wide receiver. I knew that out the gate. But I said, I can catch the ball pretty well, and I'm not trying to be in the trenches. So let me play tight end. When I'm catching the ball here, I'm Rob Gronkowski. Just boom, boom, boom. It's just, over the shoulder catches I couldn't do. I couldn't ball placement to save my life. So because of that, I am a middle schooler playing against 9th, 10th, and 11th graders, and I'm on the offensive line. That is how I knew football wasn't for me. But last thing I'll say is this for Christian Wilkins. If we're in a team meeting and we're watching film, or we're talking, or even if we're not, even if we're joking around, practice is over, and it's just we're chilling, we're just chilling in the facility, and I see a teammate come over to me, stand in front of me, lean over, and kiss me on my forehead. I'm not an aggressive person. I feel like there will be a uber aggressive response from me in that moment, no matter who it is. That's all I'm saying. Again, I'm interested to see where Christian Wilkins goes, but yeah, that's the first that I've heard. That's crazy. That's crazy. Hope this is a life lesson. Hope he learns it. Let's move forward. Let's just be real about something here. There are some avenues that is dominated by other races, I'm being honest. Come on now. As much as we don't want to say it, it's just true. Basketball, football, when you look at the best players, when you look at just the amount of people that play that particular sport, those are African-American dominated sports. Not saying that other races aren't good, but it's dominated. The majority of people that are considered good in those fields, basketball, football, are African Americans. When you look at hockey, Caucasians. You can also say the same thing for NASCAR. NASCAR, I can't name you more than two minorities ever that has been involved in NASCAR. NASCAR is a Southern Caucasian-dominated event. Sport, if you will. I'm not going to disrespect the drivers. And it's not just in sports. You see that everywhere. Did you see the uproar that Beyonce received when she dropped a country album? There's people to this day that still say she did not drop a country album, even though she's won Grammys for best country artist and stuff like that. They're still saying it's not a country album. That is not country, which is fine. I'm not a country connoisseur, but there's just avenues that people are clear minorities. NASCAR and African Americans are definitely one of them. So I want to congratulate Bubba Wallace for becoming the first African American driver to win a major race, the NASCAR Cup Series in Indianapolis. Contrary to popular belief, Bubba Wallace has actually been pretty good in NASCAR. He hasn't really won much, but he's been pretty good. And I know that a lot of people remember anytime Bubba Wallace's name comes up, the first thing that comes to mind is the whole noose thing in the garage, which is unfortunate. But I am going to champion anybody African American that's doing something out of the majority. And the fact that again, do you understand? I don't. Let me first. I don't watch NASCAR. I don't really watch F1. I don't really watch racing. It's just not appealing to me. Just watching somebody drive in a circle or, that just doesn't do it for me. But I do understand when we talk about how dangerous it is, when we talk about the speed, the heat. I know it says it can get up to over 100 degrees in those cars because the engine and how fast you're going. The sun is beaming down. Like it's grueling. And again, I'm here to congratulate Bubba Wallace, man. I haven't, and the cool thing about it is I haven't heard his name in a while. I have not heard his name in a while. So when I did hear, I was like, oh, shoot. What do you do? And I was like, oh, he won? And then, he was just so animated when he won because, again, this was his first major race that he won. So shout out to him, man. Always in the vein of this, it's like I always think about, while there are minorities in different sports, what sport could African Americans take over if we took it seriously? I know that this is, this is a touchy subject for people, but if we took a sport seriously, what sport other than, basketball and football could we dominate? One of the sports that is absolutely last on the list or close to last is NASCAR. I just don't think NASCAR we're going to break through. And a lot of people don't want to talk about it, but there has always been an underlining racist undertone when we talk about NASCAR. I'm not going to go into depth. You can always look it up if you want. But there has always been a I'm not even going to call it subtle. There's always been a underbed, and sometimes front and center, but it's usually been an underbed of racism when we talk about NASCAR. So for the fact that Bubba Wallace was able to win, it's another, and I'm not calling him Tiger Woods. Whoa. I'm not saying he's on the same level as Tiger, so don't hear me say that. But as great, and Tiger was much better in his, relative sport, i.e., golf, than Bubba Wallace was when we talk about NASCAR. But do you understand how difficult it was for Tiger, as great as he is, just to break into a golf and be accepted and even be allowed to compete for a green jacket? We're talking about arguably the greatest golfer known to man. Obviously, it's an argument, but a lot of people would say that Tiger Woods is the greatest golfer known to man. It took him so long just to be accepted in the golf sphere. And ironically, I'm not going to say any names. I'm not going to put any channels out there. I'm not going to say any names. But in doing research for this and finding out that Bubba Wallace won the major or the NASCAR the Cup Series, I went to go look at commentary. I went to go listen to the commentary about him winning. And boy, there are some people that were upset with that, man. It's always funny when I hear and when you figure out why people are upset. Some people just like being upset. Some people just don't like joy. And when you hear people upset with him that he won, that's one. People upset with him for how exuberant he was and how happy he was that he won. Because again, you won your first major race, bro. What do you expect? Do you expect someone to just be like, hey, I won. Yippee. In fact, if you go back to almost every single star, white, black, any race, and look how they react their first time, of course that's what's like. Now, I might not have, threw the middle finger at a couple people, but you know what I'm saying? But people were upset. Again, I'm not going to say any names. I'm not going to put anybody out there, but that should tell you exactly where you're at and why that this is second on the docket. I am here to spread love and positivity as much as I can. And you start this episode with a teammate trying to kiss another teammate on the forehead, and then the next one is celebrating Bubba Wallace for becoming the first black driver to win a NASCAR Cup Series in Indianapolis. Congratulations to you, brother. Well deserved. Well deserved. Hell, he may never win again. He may never finish first again. I don't care. Hell, he might even be the cover of this episode. He earned it. Shouts out to Bubba Wallace for making history. Boy, people were upset. The same verbiage, the same energy you heard people give Beyonce for making that country album, and even worse, winning a Grammy for that country album, is the same voices you heard and the same energy you heard when Bubba Wallace won. And trust me, if you think I'm lying, if you think I'm over exaggerating, you go listen for yourself. Because trust me, if it didn't happen, if people were just like, hey, good job, brother, I wouldn't say nothing. I would just say congratulations and keep it moving. But when you hear some of the that are, I'm sure are still on the internet, because that's where I saw it and that's where I heard it, I'll let you do with that information as you will. Again, congratulations, Bubba Wallace, for becoming the first black driver to win at the NASCAR, or win a NASCAR Cup Series. Shout out to you, brother. We're going from one sport that I don't watch too often to another sport. But even in this is obviously a congratulatory episode, sort of. I know people are saying that nowadays it's the Hall of Fame is getting washed down. Well, a lot of people are saying, whether you're talking about the NFL Hall of Fame, the Basketball Hall of Fame, MLB Hall of Fame, NHL Hall of Fame, you're like, they just letting anybody in. And that usually comes after somebody that may not have had uber great stats or uber great accomplishments to make it into the Hall of Fame. Doesn't mean they weren't a great player. Obviously, they were a great player, but they may not have had accolades and success like somebody else. The 2025 MLB class, or Hall of Fame class, was announced, and you got Ichiro Suzuki, CC Sabathia, Billy Wagner, and the late Dave Parker, as well as the late Dick Allen. I think Billy Wagner is the eighth. I could be wrong, but I think Billy Wagner is like the eighth relief pitcher in the Hall of Fame, period. So clearly he was good. Like he was something, because they don't really allow relief, or they don't really put relief pitchers into the Hall of Fame. Again, I think he's the eighth person, eighth or ninth. I could be wrong, but I know it's a scarce amount. And he even said it in his Hall of Fame speech. CC Sabathia, no. He is not the greatest pitcher ever. And I will even say that I believe a lot of his success was due to the fact that he was playing on the most popular team in baseball for majority of his career in the Yankees. But there was a good period of time where when you talked, and this is coming from somebody that never really watched baseball, sparingly, watch the World Series and I watch the playoffs, but this is someone that doesn't know much about baseball. So you can take that as nothing, or you can take that as my opinion doesn't count. It's up to you. But CC Sabathia, for the longest, was the face of pitching. When we talk about shortstops, the face of shortstops for the longest was Derek Jeter. When we talk about power hitting, when we talk about just home runs, the face of home runs for the longest, and may even still be that, is Barry Bonds. Now, I'm not saying that CC Sabathia was up there when we talk about Barry Bonds, but there was a good time where the face of pitching was CC Sabathia. And I'm not saying he was the best, but he was the face of that. And it did also help, like I said, that he played for the most recognizable team, not just in baseball, maybe all of sports, in the New York Yankees. So the fact, obviously he has a World Series to his name. I think that is well deserved. And then you get to Ichiro Suzuki. We just talked about Bubba Wallace. And we talked about how there are sports that are dominated by certain races, ethnicities, you know what I'm saying? And you don't see a lot of, I know Shohei Ohtani might be the greatest baseball player we've ever seen, but for the longest, we didn't see, and even if you look on the game today, outside of Shohei, there's not a lot of Asians in baseball. One of the most popular, and it's not just because, he was just Asian, but he was also one of the best players of his time, and that is Ichiro Suzuki. In fact, he's so good, he's known by one name. Not saying that he's on the same level, but there's a reason why we know Bron for LeBron. Steph, we call him Steph. Kobe, we call him Kobe. Shaq, we call him Shaq. They were so good, they're pretty much known either for their nickname or as one name. Ichiro was so good for the Marlins or Mariners. He's known as Ichiro. What he did in Seattle, boy, I don't think he ever won a World Series, but he was on that Seattle team that won like 100-something games. Yeah. That man has a career total of 117 home runs, 1,420 runs, 3,089 hits, 3,994 total bases, 780 RBIs. It had an average of .311. Yeah. If you don't believe anything I say about this, if you're questioning, because there was one, he almost was a unanimous pick for the Hall of Fame, but there was just one person. Don't know who that one person was. Don't know what they were watching. But we call Steph. We call Lamar. We call Patrick Mahomes pretty much Mahomes. We call LeBron. We call MJ. Those are that's because they were so great. They're just known by one name or a nickname. They're just when you say, "Oh, you're talking about Mahomes," that's what what we're talking about. Ichiro was so good, we call him Ichiro. We don't even bother with Suzuki. So I say all that to say, congratulations to every single person. Again, shout out to the late Dave Parker and Dick Allen as well, both African Americans. Both great. I think Dave Parker was one of the most expressive. I know he would have different shirts that have different sayings on it a lot, and I know his family did a great job in pretty much describing him as a great person for his Hall of Fame inductee, and then obviously with Dick Allen. Obviously, these people are great in their own way, but we have one of the best baseball players of all time in Ichiro. We have one of the faces when he was playing of baseball, when we talk about pitching, and CC Sabathia. Again, I think he's the 8th reliever, left-hand reliever at that, 8th reliever to ever make the Hall of Fame in Billy Wagner. Like, this was an incredible class. It's also incredible because I know most of these people. And again, this is coming from somebody that don't know much about baseball at all. But congratulations. And I did love how Ichiro was like, whoever didn't vote me into the Hall of Fame, your reservation to my house is revoked. Because again, I don't know how can you watch Ichiro and think to yourself, that's not Hall of Fame worthy. That's crazy. When again, he's literally known as Ichiro. he's known by one name. Unless you do just something infamously terrible, you're not really known by one name if you're not great, and he was that. So congratulations to all the 2025 Hall of Fame inductees. This is going to be a quick episode. I know that we are a couple days away, literally 2 days away, from August. Meaning, we are almost a month away from the NFL season starting. And we're about to, football is just about to engulf our everyday. Whether you talk about NFL, whether you talk about college football, I don't know if you guys noticed on the pod, but I've waited. I think August is going to be solely focused on football. Obviously, I'll talk about NBA things because there's still free agency and trades and stuff, but August is going to be, football starts to rev up. And with that, there are people in all of sports that kind of transcend the sport and their importance, not just to sport, but to life, is paramount for a lot of people. One of those people is Deion Sanders. And this is going to be the end of the episode soon. And I started this by saying, yeah, football is about to be in heavy rotation soon. But what Deion Sanders was fighting, behind closed doors, might I add, is bigger than football. And there's some situations that remind you that the stuff that we watch, obviously it's a lifestyle for a bunch of people, Like if you play in a sport, that's your life. But we're still watching, we're still playing, we're still talking about a game. And life is much bigger than that. I do want to congratulate and shout out Deion Sanders. It came out, I know that there was a press conference the press conference was scheduled for Monday, I believe. And there was just a bunch of rumors swirling saying that, and I understand it too. When you have a press conference and it also says that Deion Sanders and his medical team is going to have a press conference, I would assume, obviously in this instance I'd be wrong, but I would assume that means more than likely you're going to be stepping away due to medical reasons. And we also know Deion Sanders, I think he has 8 toes. He's had a couple, toes chopped off. He's had work done on his legs because he, just medical reasons. He's had to do some things with his legs. So when you hear that Deion Sanders will be having a press conference on Monday, which happened 2 days ago, with his medical staff, I'm thinking to myself, oh yeah, Deion Sanders is about to step away. I don't know why, but he's about to step away. And it's obviously going to be for medical reasons. And then it came, the press conference happens. And it's revealed that it was found, they found that Deion Sanders had bladder cancer, essentially, or cancerous something in his bladder, and they caught it fast enough where he was able to get it removed, and I think essentially now is cancer free. So, congratulations for that. And he will not be stepping away from football, which is also a blessing. That's that's the theme, man. A blessing. I don't know anyone that watches this. I don't know if you're a spiritual person. I don't know your spiritual ideologies. I don't know if you don't even believe in a higher. That's up to you. That's cool. I'm not judging you. Everyone moves through life at their own pace and their own beliefs. But I'm someone that believes heavily in spirituality, and I'm someone that tries to live his life on the path of righteousness, on the path that pleases God, and on the path that, the narrow path, essentially. And one thing that I adore about Deion Sanders is no matter what happens, no matter what happens with his son, with his kids, his family, himself, the team that he coaches, it never seems that God is not centered in his life. And I also love the fact that he's not quiet about his love for God and how important God has been in his life and his family's lives. Again, it's easy to just be like, it's easy to go and talk about, is Deion Sanders going to be, how is Colorado going to look with Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders gone? Is Deion Sanders going to be a coach? It's good. It's easy to just focus on the sport. And I'm not saying that soon we're not going to get to that point where we're just focused on the sport. But I wanted to end this episode, and I wanted to say congratulations for Deion Sanders for beating essentially bladder cancer. And there are things in life that put importance or put the perspective on what's important. And as much as Deion Sanders means to the game of football, as much as he means to coaching, as much as he means to the African American community, it's good to know that he's still here. Especially when you look and, I pray for everyone and their family and strengthen this time, because you see, do you know how many times you turn on the news and see someone of prominence gone? I'm not gonna say any names, but there have been a bunch of people as of recently that have passed away. Never gonna see them again. Walking the earth. It really puts into perspective not just how, again, I'm not here changing anybody's ideologies or changing anybody's look on life, but it just puts into perspective how important God is and how precious life is, and how at the end of the day we're talking about sports, we're talking about a game, we're talking about something that is it's just a game. Now, yeah, for some people it's life. Obviously, they play it, they live it. Hell, honestly, sports is heavy in my life. I mean, I work in sports. I have a podcast. I play sports. But I am happy that we still have Deion Sanders with us. And it's also funny that this news came out right before we really start focusing and honing in on football. Again, next month, college football is about to rev up, and then, or when you talk about, preseason's about to start. I think the Hall of Fame game is supposed to be on Thursday for NFL, so preseason's about to start, and then once September hit, but again, I'm happy. Congratulations to Deion Sanders for being cancer-free. Yeah. There's also, I don't know if I have permission to say that, so I'm just going to keep it moving. There you have it. That's been today's episode of the Unpopular Podcast. I truly, truly, truly appreciate you guys. If you want a Popular Podcast shirt, hoodie, sweater, long sleeve joggers, the link is in the description below. I have multiple different colors, multiple different designs. Get your Unpopular Podcast merch today. Also, from my YouTube watchers, please subscribe. I'm trying to reach as many subscribers as possible. I appreciate everyone that continues to support me. I appreciate everyone that likes, that comments. Even if you don't agree, I appreciate it. If you do see the content, whether they're reels, whether there's the whole episode, whether they're clips, and you like what you see, please subscribe. If you are subscribed and you know someone that isn't, that would like the content, please share it with them. Again, I'm trying to grow as much as possible, and I cannot do it without you guys' help. Same with the DSPs, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, wherever you get your DSPs, wherever you want to hear my luscious voice, please subscribe, please follow. I'm trying to grow the entire Unpopular Podcast network, essentially, and I cannot do it without you guys. So all my DSP listeners, please subscribe. If you are subscribed, please comment. If you are subscribed and comment, please share with somebody that you think would like the episode or the podcast. For socials, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, I post pretty much daily there. I had the reason why you guys didn't get an episode on Saturday is because there was major technical difficulties. So I apologize for that, but I post a new episode every Saturday and Wednesday. And I usually post reels every day, sometimes more than one. I don't mind you commenting. In fact, I welcome you to comment. I would love for you to comment. Just keep it respectful. It just means you're listening to me. It means that you have an opinion, and both are very important. Just if you keep it respectful, I don't mind going back and forth. Just leave, please follow. It means a lot. Is that it? That might be it. Until next time, much love.